According to the global gym statistics of 2025, within first 6 months, 50% of the new gym members quit. Half of the people gone. Has it ever happened with you? So the question is, why does this happen? People who join a gym are motivated. They want a better body, better health. So where does it collapse? It collapses because to break an existing pattern, to change an old pattern, you need a powerful amount of energy. And that energy comes from intense desire, not mere by a thought or an intention. Today, we will talk about desire, which is an integral part of spirituality. You may say, wait a minute, isn't spirituality talk about going beyond desires? But when we refer to Tattva Bodha, one of the essential qualifications of a seeker is Mumukṣutvam, which is translated as intense desire for liberation. Then you may say, whether I desire for wealth, desire for fame, or desire for liberation, everything is bound and rooted in desire. So what's the difference? Yes, you're correct. And therefore, desire needs to be qualified a bit. And let us understand this in a simple manner. This is what we would like to do in Tvame. See, the fundamental law of mind is that it will not give up anything unless it finds something better. Imagine a child crying because he wants a small chocolate. You tell him, no chocolate, it is bad for your teeth. Does he stop crying? No, he cries even more. But when you offer him something better, like his favorite toy, he stops crying instantly. Not because he's disciplined or he has understood that chocolate is bad for his teeth, but because a higher desire replaced a lower one. So the newer desires are sometimes required to overcome the existing desires which binds us. Let's take another example to understand this clearly. The example of a pole vault athlete. He needs a pole to gain momentum, to rise and cross the bar. But the moment he is in air, he must release the pole. So the pole is essential, but up to a point. In the same way, we require certain kind of desires, a higher purifying desires called sattvic desires, to rise above the ocean of samsara that we are all stuck in. And this sattvic desire is what our Upanishads call Mumukṣutvam, the desire for liberation. This desire is not a chain. It gives us energy that breaks the existing chains. See, we all have desires. Desires like, or a desire for approval, praise, money, power, material growth, sensual pleasures, and they're all fine. They're all very natural. However, we need to also understand that these desires pull the mind outward and create dependence. And what happens when you are dependent? Stress, anxiety, and disappointment. However, on another hand, the desire for freedom, the desire for peace, for clarity, desire for self-knowledge, here the mind gets pulled inward. And this inward pull weakens the external cravings. So spirituality here doesn't fight desires, it simply redirects it. Shri Krishna beautifully says, use one desire to remove another desire and then throw both away. Just like a thorn is required to remove another thorn, and ultimately both the thorns are thrown away. On the similar lines, Śaṅkara compares Mumukṣutvam, which is also a desire, like a fire. A fire that burns away the impurities, and once the impurities are gone, the fire naturally becomes quiet. hope you now understand that all desires are not binding desires. So we need to use these non-binding desires to overcome those that binds us. And what are these non-binding desires? We will discover as we go along. Now, when Upanishads talk about Mumukṣutvam, it means intense desire and not an ordinary desire. Intense is important. Why? See, a normal desire cannot defeat a strong habit. Suppose you want to give up smoking, a normal desire, but the pull of having a nicotine kick is so much stronger. Then who wins? The habit of smoking. Because a mild desire can easily be crushed by years of conditioning. But if one day something shakes you, a health scare, the report of lungs, then you may quit smoking. Why? Because the fear or the reason to stay healthy is now far more intense, and it can override the compulsion for nicotine. The intensity gives power, and without intensity, the mind always picks comfort. Now the next question is, why do we need intense desire or that intensity to stay on the path of spirituality? Right? To answer that, first let's quickly qualify what do you mean by spirituality. If spirituality simply means doing few rituals mechanically, chanting something because someone told us to, listening to satsang on Sundays, watching few spiritual videos and podcasts, going on retreats, feeling peaceful for some time, they're all good, they're all fine. In fact, they are culturally beautiful and it's a good starting point. But it doesn't require intense desire, none of this. But also, it doesn't bring lasting transformation. Because as and when you are back to your life, the old patterns takes over. But when Upanishads talks about spirituality, they mean breaking your own habits, your own conditioning, the way you think and look at life, chitta shuddhi through meditation, tapas, sadhana. And here we need Mumukṣutvam, the intense desire to overcome the challenges when you are on this path. So one can ask, here what challenges I may face if I want to change the way I look at life or break my conditioning. Okay, let me then share a scenario which will relate to a lot of us. Here is a lady who spent her entire life giving. She managed the home, raised 2 children, and because her husband's job required constant travel, she managed most of her responsibilities alone. Not just that, she even raised her nephew and niece who stayed with her as if they were her own. Years passed, the kids grew up, her husband retired, and everyone became busy with their own lives. And slowly she realized something painful, that very people she cared for don't look back anymore. There is no gratitude, no acknowledgement, no recognition for all that she did. And naturally bitterness began to arise. She often thought, I gave my entire youth to everyone, and now no one even asks, how am I doing? And this is where spirituality becomes real. Because for her to find peace now, she cannot change the past, she cannot change the people. The only thing she can change is her interpretation, which is not easy. Rather, it's very difficult. The obvious way to see this situation is, people are selfish, no one values what I did. After their work is done, they forget you. This interpretation is natural one, isn't it? It comes automatically. And this is how maybe the majority of us think. And this obvious interpretation will keep her trapped. Trapped in hurt, trapped in expectation, trapped in resentment. And this is where the old conditioning wins. But spirituality says, go beyond the obvious. And to go beyond the obvious, you need a very strong desire, Mumukṣutvam, to see the truth. Because here, the deeper truth is that it was never I who did everything. It was happening through me. She was an instrument, a medium, a channel through which life took care of these children. She didn't give anything. Giving happened through her. And this is what Upanishads calls as Ishwar Arpana Bhava, the attitude that my actions are offering to the total and the results are not in my control. If she can clearly see, the bitterness will dissolve and the gratitude will replace expectations. If she realizes that I was chosen to be the vehicle through which the family was raised, that opportunity itself is a blessing. And this shift would bring tremendous amount of peace. But the challenge is, this shift does not come automatically. It is not taught by society. It is not supported by our ego. It goes against everything we have been conditioned to believe. And to reach this understanding, she has to break her expectation patterns, her identity as the one who sacrificed, her emotional dependence on appreciation, her belief that others must acknowledge her efforts. This is inner work, hard work, lonely work, and this is spirituality. And this is also why spirituality is difficult. Not because concepts are difficult to understand. We all know all this. But because we have to rewire and recreate the way we see ourselves and the world. And to do that, you need intense desire, intense enough to face the discomfort, intense enough to question your own stories, intense enough to keep searching for deeper truth, even when the ego resists. And this is why Upanishad stresses on intense desire, Mumukṣutvam, to stay on the path that leads to freedom. So the very normal question is, how do we get this intense desire? And honestly, the best way to answer is not through philosophy, but through our own personal experience. Because at Tvame, we always say, let's make spirituality relatable. So let me ask you, what shifted inside you to follow this path of self-awareness? If you are still watching this video, which most of the people will call it as a dry topic, it already means that something inside you is looking for deeper answers. And here are a few reasons why the intense desire would have awakened in you. One, for many of us, we start seeing that our own and others' life all are running in a loop. I personally used to feel that almost everyone is having a similar kind of pattern. Study, job, business, house, car, assets, marriage, children, loans, some defaults, few divorces, separation, saving, investment, retirement, old age, health issues, death. The levels may vary. One may have 2 houses, 3 marriages, a high-flying job or average job. All are but numbers. However, the patterns are similar everywhere. Even the emotional patterns are far more similar. The same kind of arguments, same reaction, same ambitions and disappointments, same desires, similar insecurities, similar addictions. the same competition. And once you see through this loop, you can't help but ask, is there a other way to live? And that question itself is the beginning of Mumukṣutvam, the desire for liberation. And second, for some, it comes when they are tired of being emotionally dependent on people and situations. You give in your best, you try everything, but life still doesn't go the way you want it to. Similar to the story that we just spoke. You long to be understood, respected, acknowledged, and it doesn't happen. And even when you finally get some success, some peace, the mind is always in the fear of losing it, and it's hyper vigilant all the time. And in that moment, you may realize, I don't want my peace to be held hostage to the world anymore. And that realization can spark an intense desire for liberation. And third, for quite a lot of us, everything looks perfect from outside. Money, family, stability, and yet something feels incomplete. That why do I feel so restless even though I have everything that I need and everything that I want? That quiet dissatisfaction can push you inwards. And fourth, sometimes there is no reason at all for the pull towards inner freedom. It's simply grace. No tragedy, no breakthrough, just an inner maturity that silently unfolds and takes you to the path of spirituality. And so it may happen that one line from a book, one sentence from a teacher, something that a friend spoke, or even a video suddenly hits you so deeply. Not because the knowledge is new, but because you are finally ready. And that readiness itself is grace. So, to the question that how the intense desire Mumukṣutvam arises, the answer is there is no single source. It's a mix of maturity, pain, clarity, grace, timing. For each person, the trigger is different. And I would love to listen from you and put it out in the comments that what awakened that desire inside you. It would be nice to hear that. And now comes another interesting point. Almost in all the trainings that we conduct at Tvame, this question comes up, that how do I make my spouse, my children, my parents to move on the path of spirituality? How I wish they can also benefit from this. And what do you say? Do you think it is even possible? See, Mumukṣutvam, or a desire for freedom, doesn't arise from pressure. It arises from readiness. And this readiness comes from different factors, as we have discussed just right now. In fact, Vedanta clearly states there's something called adhikari bheda. That readiness of each individual is different. And that readiness comes from four things. First, adhikaritva, an inner maturity that cannot be manufactured. Second is samskaras, the past impressions and tendencies that we have carried forward from our previous lifetimes, which creates a natural inclination towards self-inquiry. Third interesting one is dukha anusandhanam. The repeated encounters with suffering, disappointment, limitation pushes you to look life differently. And fourth, Ishvara Kripa. We just spoke about it, grace. A subtle push that cannot be explained logically. This has been mentioned in Vivek Chudamani, Jivan Mukti Viveka, in few of the places. And I know it can be really frustrating when your family is not at the same point where you are right now. And it is natural that you want to share what you have been learning, what you are knowing, so that they can grow along with you. But we need to accept that it can't be forced on anyone. Not because they are wrong, not because you are right, but because their Mumukṣutvam, the desire hasn't awakened yet. So what do? Understand that this desire for freedom is your desire. This longing for clarity is your longing. This push for the inner work is your path. And therefore, this pain, this loneliness you sometimes feel is actually a part of your spiritual training. And you have to live through it, through acceptance and understanding. Because spirituality is not about fixing others. It is also about seeing your own expectations very clearly. And there is one thing, if each one of us can genuinely be grateful for, it is this: the fact that we even have Mumukṣutvam, the desire for freedom. That itself is grace. Maybe this desire is yet not for moksha in the traditional sense. Maybe you're not looking for liberation immediately. But the fact that you feel a pull to go within, that you seek clarity, that you seek steadiness, understanding, that is already a blessing many people never experience. In my own life, I have seen people who go through unimaginable hardships. Life has shaken them again and again, and yet they remain centered, grounded, and self-aware. And I have also seen the opposite, where a small challenge becomes a storm. And what makes the difference? It's not education, not wealth, not even the age. It is the inner longing, Mumukṣutvam, the desire to live with awareness, the desire to understand life instead of reacting to it. And yes, this is important, that even with intense desire, we will still stumble. We will still go 2 steps forward and 1 step backward. We will still get affected by worldly situations, and it's okay. Mumukṣutvam doesn't make you perfect. It simply brings you back to the path again and again. So instead of getting frustrated that why I'm not there yet, why do I still get triggered, why I'm still affected, take a breath and recognize the grace that the process has already begun. The transformation will come in its own time, at its own rhythm. Our role is just to stay sincere, to stay aware, and allow the grace to work through us. And if you feel called to walk this path more deeply, at Tvame, we explore Upanishads in a simple, relatable way through our live online workshops. You will find the link in the description below. Please share your details and we will reach out to you before our next batch begins. So today we complete part 1 of Tattva Bodha, where we explored 4-fold qualifications a seeker needs before entering into the path of self-knowledge. In our previous 3 videos, we have covered the concepts of Viveka, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti, and how we can apply them in our day-to-day life in a very simple manner. And today we covered Mumukṣutvam. So these 4 qualities, Vivek, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti and Mumukṣutvam, also referred as discrimination, dispassion, discipline and desire, 4 Ds, is the bedrock of our spiritual journey. And before you go, if this video has brought you even a little bit of a clarity, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Your support helps this knowledge to reach many more people who may need it. And let there be grace in our seeking. See you soon. Namaste.